Hi, it's Daniel and this is my Elves Amanyar. This is Elves' first proper go at a triathlon time trial bike, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about my first thoughts and impressions about the bike, the spec that I've got on it and why, and some things that I like and some things I don't like. Now, for full disclosure, Elves did give me a discount when I bought this bike. Obviously I said I'm going to make some videos about it, but I haven't promised what I'm going to say. I haven't been told to be positive about it or say anything specific. I really value my integrity with this sort of thing, because if I just say what a brand tells me to, then you're not going to care, right? So these are my true and honest thoughts about this. And whilst I'm grateful for Elves giving me a discount, so it actually enables me to buy a bike to be able to make videos about, I don't value it enough to override that. So let's get stuck in. Firstly, the why then. I mean, at the end of 2024, I knew that I was going to be swapping my triathlon bike. I had a Felt IA rim brake. I've been riding disc brake on the road. I really like it. I like being able to run wider tyres, lower pressures, stopping's better in the Peak District where I live, all of that. So I was on the hunt for a bike. Now, I actually ended up buying a Crash Speedmax and building that into something else, but in and amongst that time, this came up and Elves had released it. And I thought, yep, do you know what? Worth a punt. Now, it's £1,500 for the frame and cockpit, which versus all the big brands is like, well, so competitive that big brands can't compete with it. However, it's all well and good at being cheap, but if it's rubbish, it's still no good, is it? So I thought, well, it's worth me giving it a go for the sake of making some videos, sharing them with you guys and girls. I really want to try and cover that entry-level price point in the market. I know a couple of £1,000s still isn't entry-level, but it's the lowest we're going to get for this sort of bike now. So yeah, here we are. So when I was planning the spec, I obviously wanted to swap over as many parts as I could from my old bike. Turns out I could only really swap over the gearing and the saddle. Other than that, everything else is new, but that's the best I could do. So we'll start with the gearing. It's SRAM ETAP 11 speed. It's set up 1 at the minute. I have got a front mech for it somewhere, but I'm going to be doing mostly flat events on this bike, so I don't need to put the 2 on there. I've got an 1128 cassette. I would put an 1130 on if I could find it, but I've been struggling to dig it out of the garage. The chain rings are 58. It's from Pyramid Cycle Design. They're manufactured in the UK. I've used those chain rings for years, really like them. 58 is a bit ambitious for me. I was fitter a couple of years ago and it wasn't a problem. Perhaps it'll be a problem for me now, but it's already on the bike, so I'm gonna have to try and pedal it and do the best I can. I've paired that gearing with a couple of components from my channel partners. So Easy Gains do the aero chainring cover. I've seen that thing tested in the wind tunnel. I know we see brands bat around watt saving numbers here, there and everywhere. I've literally seen that tested on multiple bikes and seen the results. Same with the disc wheel cover, like as fast as a disc wheel, nowhere near as the cost. Really fits in with the ethos of this sort of build and my general position in life. And a wax chain and ceramic bearing jockey wheels from NRG Chains. Obviously we know that wax drivetrains are faster and cleaner and more efficient, but more than anything, got a gold chain. So the bike itself then, what do I think about it? Well, I really like that you can pick what paint you want from factory, you can do custom design, you can do 2 or 3 colors, there's lots of options. It just means that you can make the bike what you like it like. Not everybody will like this color. It's like a bluey purpley pearlescent, it's really metallic. I went for like a brushed chrome and silver detailing. I think it breaks up really well, but you might not like that. So you can build a bike how you like it. And I'm a big fan of bikes that are the color you like. I think there's something in the performance aspect of, if your morale is high, you're going to perform better. And I know it's small, but when you're racing on a triathlon bike, you can see it below you. I think, oh, if I like it, I'm going to feel better about it. I'm really clutching at straws there, but that's what I've got in my mind. Now, the actual frame set features then, or lack of, in terms of the seat tube. Now, obviously there's no seat tube. That's the thing that really stands out when you first look at this bike. It's like, oh, this is cool and it's at a lower end price point wise, but, and I can't help but think, but why didn't they just put a seat tube on there? Now, Elves speak about the fact that I think this is slightly faster than bikes with seat tubes, but more than anything, they talk about the compliance and that the ride quality of this, particularly on bumpy roads, is better because this setup allows more shocks to be absorbed. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I haven't ridden this on the road yet, but I just can't help but feel like you might have sold so much more if there's a seat tube on there, because there's less reasons for people to avoid it. There is a 100 kilo weight limit on this bike. I know many triathletes are well under 100 kilos. I'm only just under it now, actually, so if it was 6 months ago I wouldn't have been able to ride this, so perhaps a problem for some people. I'm going to reserve judgment on that until I have ridden it, but I just think it's a bit of a the hydration setup on this bike. So it's quite important when you're doing triathlon to be able to carry your own fluids. If you're doing long races, then you need to be able to swap bottles and so on, and it's a bit of a mixed bag with this. So an internal hydration setup with a bladder in the frame, I really like that. I actually hacked one of those into my old bike, the Felt, and it works really well practically. You can refill it on the go with bottles from aid stations. I like the straw you can drink from while you're still in TT position. I like that. I think it's about a 700ml capacity. It's probably different in the different size frames, but I like that. The down tube bottle, it looks like it's been designed with this Elite Aero bottle in mind, and of course the bottle cage only fits that. I don't think you can get a normal bottle cage on there because it recesses into the frame. I will stand corrected if you can, but I think it does sit quite far in the frame. If you can only get that on there, I'm a bit disappointed with that, because when you're in a race and you're swapping bottles, it's very common you start with a bottle, you drink it, and you get to an aid station and you swap it for a different one. You can't do that with, well, you can chuck it away with this, but they're not going to be giving out these bottles at aid stations, right? So a bit of a problem. They are also known for ejecting really easily, aren't they? So maybe that's an issue, but again, I need to test that. There is a mount built into the seat post as well, up just behind the saddle, for you to be able to mount another bottle. I know you could probably get a setup where you can mount 2 bottles on there if needed. So I don't think as a package hydration is a problem, but it will just take a bit of tweaking to get right. I probably won't rely on that. I might use a bottle but expect to lose it some way around, or to not be able to refill it, obviously. But yeah, okay, I think, for hydration. Nutrition storage, so us triathletes like to eat on the go, I know, and lots of modern tri-suits don't have big pockets, so to be able to store a few gels or chews or something on a bike is a big advantage, but this bike doesn't have any food storage. I would have loved to have seen some in that top tube there. It's deep enough to have like a recessed storage area, just needs a bit of a lid on it or something, or even something raised up a little bit, but there just isn't anything there. So it just means that if you're using food as part of your nutrition plan, you've got to carry it on your person, or I suppose you could strap a top tube bag to the top, but it sort of just looks a bit strange, and I hate fitting aftermarket things to what should be well sorted bikes. Now, I know if you're relying on fluids for nutrition, or if you're not doing very long events, that might not be a problem, but to me in a middle distance event, I would have liked to have put a couple of gels in a top tube bag. And then tool storage, there's none of that either. I think it's a bit of a shame. When you've got such deep tubes everywhere, I know there's structural integrity and you can't just cut holes in everything, but like there could have been a tool storage thing there, surely. Or similar to what the Argon does, they have one at the bottom bracket, but there's just nothing there. Now, I know that with the multiple hydration storage options, if I was wanting to run tools, I'd probably put a double bottle storage behind the saddle and put my tools and spares in one of the bottles, but it's just not ideal. I like to be able to lock the tools away somewhere and not have to worry about them. I think on the whole though, if you're comparing it against other like real budget entry level triathlon bike frames, more often than not they have nothing. They're just like a time trial frame, so to have some built-in hydration I think is good, but to really compete with that top end of the market, your Trek Speed Concepts, your Canyon Speed Max and so on, you've got to have a bit more integration, nutrition, tool storage. Moving on to the cockpit, so this is Elves' own brand, and this is the AeroRay Pro. They do an AeroRay Sport and the AeroRay Pro. The Pro gets you these different extensions, which you can adjust the length of. I think that works really well. Of course, you're going to lose a little bit in aerodynamic drag with the bolts sticking out and so on, but I think the gain from being able to get them the right length is better than that. A Garmin mount raised on the bridge between the two stacks I think is really good. It works well. It sits right in front of your face. I've only tested it on a turbo, but I was able to look at where I'll be looking when I was riding. The armrests and padding on the extensions does feel really supportive. I think I would get some squares of foam now and fill in the gaps where I've extended these, but I really like that as a factory option. That's really good. You can soon spend a couple £100 on some aftermarket armrests, so to have some that are usable from factory is good. The top end of the extension isn't as friendly feeling wise. It feels like it's a bit of a big drop off from the end to the where you hold it, and I don't know, I'm going to test it on the road, but I think that's a little bit weird, and it's just so big as well. Like the extension sticks through your hand. I would have liked to have a option really with that. You see on the aftermarket extensions that I know are a lot more money, you can unbolt those and change the end fitting. This is just they are as they are from factory. Down to the stack and the whole adjustability of that. Well, firstly, it's a standard clamp onto the base bar, which means if you wanted to run an aftermarket base bar, you can do, and obviously aftermarket extensions and stack and so on. But I've fiddled around with these, I've took some out, put some in, I've changed the settings of them and so on, and it's really easy to work with. Of course, it's always a little bit fiddly, but you can run the ETAP wires through the stack. There's a little gap for that. There's multiple options and bolts. You get the whole pack with the bike when you buy it. I think that's great. I think the biggest benefit you can get when you buy a time trial triathlon bike is to be able to make it fit you, and this will be able to make it fit you. This is a size 54, which is the biggest bike that Elves do. It's not your conventional 54, it's equivalent to like a 58, and knowing that this is my position on here and I've got like 40mm of option to drop down, that gives me a lot of options if I do suddenly become more flexible or have less of a belly to be able to bend over. The base bar is swooped down a little bit. I would have actually liked to see it straight or even swooped up. When you're on the base bar and you're climbing, you want to be as sat up as you can to get the most power out and to get air to you and so on. You don't need to be aero on the base bar, so I don't know why some brands, and other brands do it as well, but swoop the base bar down. Some of the brands are reversible, these aren't reversible, but yeah, it would have been nice to see them, or even an option for like a straight or a raised one. Wheels, tyres and tyre clearance. So another partner of the channel, Veta Wheels. These are, you know, modern, mid-section, lightweight, carbon wheels are the Lisio Ultra 60s. They're 30mm external, so that means that when I put 30mm tyres on them, they do balloon them out a little bit. So I've got the Conti GP 5000S on the front in a 30, but it measures 33.4. And then on the back, I've got Hutchinson Blackbird Race in a 30 that measures 32.4. So 1mm narrower, but both of them wider than as labelled, which is pretty common. Tyre clearance wise, now obviously bearing in mind that this tyre in the front's measuring 1mm wider than the rear, there's not much clearance on the front at all. So little in fact that I've put some electrical tape inside the fork just to prevent any scratching, and so I can see if there's any friction with any muck or anything that I'll come across on the road. And the rear seems to have more clearance. Now I do need to fit the Conti tyre to the rear to be able to directly compare, but even just looking at the gaps, I think there's more clearance on the rear. So Elves rate this bike to a clearance of 28, so I'm above that. I'm not moaning that 30s look tight, you know, I should have 28s on here. I guess I'm moaning that I wish I had bigger clearance. The way that, you know, road bikes and triathlon bikes are going, 30s and 32s are becoming more and more common. 30s are probably the most common, so I would have liked to have seen, you know, easily have clearance of 30s. I'm pretty confident I can run 30s without an issue, but, you know, on paper it is 28s. Weight-wise, now I've already mentioned the weight limit for the rider riding the frame. I've asked a couple of people who work in the bike industry what they think about this sort of setup, and all they've said is, well, when you lose a seat tube, you have to put more, you know, carbon material elsewhere to be able to build that strength up, and whether that's true or not I don't know. I've weighed this, it's 10.7 kilos as it's pictured here, so with pedals, with the bottle on but it's empty, you know, with everything as you see it, 10.7 kilos. And I think my felt was around there actually, so I'm not actually too disappointed by that. I think the weight is likely competitive with bikes of its price point. It's pretty common for time trial and triathlon bikes to be above 10 kilos, and like I say, if I'm using this mostly for flat events, it's not really a problem. But yeah, it's no lightweight climber. Just a couple of bits that I've missed. 165mm cranks, that's what I use on all of my bikes. I have had to do some DIYing with the blip box and with the blip buttons and so on. I had a couple of buttons stop working, so although it might not look aesthetic, it does work. Got the Pro Stealth saddle that I'm currently testing out. I'm split between that and the Pro Aero Fuel, but I need to make my mind up this week. And yeah, that in a nutshell is my Elves Amanyar. Looking forward to getting out on it tonight, and I'll follow up with a first ride video very soon. I've also got absolutely no idea how Dave Arthur does so many of these, like kneeling down and so on, because my legs and knees have been killing from trying to do that video. So the least you can do is like and subscribe. Thanks.